We have our new director here who actually has gone through patenting items and gone through the whole IP process. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And Nathan and I are happy to answer any questions you have. I'll let him introduce himself. He just started this week, and
yeah. And I'll do this. I did a presentation in 5 minutes, so it's going to be a really short presentation. And then we'll talk through questions and real scenarios and stuff. So just background, my name's Nathan Soloman. I started on Monday. And so my background, I led business development at electronics boutique for a bunch of years, and my kind of mission was to end physical retail. I've also started other businesses funded by bootstrapping, VC, and grants. So I've gotten like big and small grants from state and foundation, and I've kind of also been through the process for all kinds of grant applications. So all kinds of like different ways to get money in. So like I had one startup that I did in New Orleans with partners, and that was VC funded, and I really like bootstrapping better myself, so I kind of advocate for that way. Abina is really good at getting people through to getting money, so that's a really good way if you can get that money too. So we're kind of like complementary, I think, in these ways. So in terms of patents, I've been kind of for law firms and kind of big cases. I haven't actually been called, but expert witness and like paid a really crazy hourly rate to give my advice on business model patents and kind of the history and uniqueness. I'm listed co-creator on free-to-play as a business model because my idiot business partners were like, oh, we got to patent this. And I said, they already do it all the time in Asia, so this is stupid, but I'm listed, and I've walked a bunch of people through patent creation, and I've done it kind of like, I did my own first patent a long time ago, and the kind of the way that I've done it is talking to a lawyer about what they think I need to write up, what's important in the idea, and then I write it up, and then they correct me, right? Because hours of legal time are expensive, and especially IP time. Like a lot of IP attorneys come from engineering or something, so they have expertise, but still you're probably the best person to like write up what your actual idea is and why it's good. And then kind of the last concept is like kind of thing that always I think comes up when people are talking about the nature of their concept and like, this is valuable, can I talk to somebody about it, should I patent it first? Occasionally you should really patent something if it's really inherently unique. But almost nothing is so unique you need to patent it. Like I've patented things, but sort of as an exercise, and sometimes like patenting when it's a technology that's really sophisticated, hasn't been done before, and in part you just want like other people not to sue you, as opposed to you wanting to sue other people, because kind of in my experience it's been more that you kind of like deal with trolls than you do like enforce. Like you kind of have to be big and powerful to enforce those, and it just seldom comes up. The other is with the ideas, like when you have an idea, if you haven't actually created it and you just say you're an idea guy, and I know it's a very practical school here, so not many people are just an idea person. And like there's value to being the person who pushes a project forward, has a vision. That's not just being the idea guy, that's being the human who is like vested and gives blood for the things. It really sucks to make a startup. And nobody important will ever sign your NDA. So if you want money from a strategic partner or a VC, they won't sign your NDA because they will. Well, there are two reasons that people don't like to sign NDAs that are like in a business, right? So if you're in, I'll give you an example from the game business. I would never sign NDAs because every time someone pitched me an idea, it was an idea that someone had already pitched me. And the idea that like it had to be secret means inherently that they think that if I use it or if I get it from somebody else, that I've stolen it. And it's not worth the trouble of having someone think you're stealing their idea, so you don't sign NDAs. Like as a strategy, you just don't sign them. So you may come across, like especially like early stage investors who love you personally, who will sign your NDA. But that's really like, if you're looking to start up something, it's not, it really doesn't make sense to create an NDA barrier to doing that. So that's kind of like the start of conversation, but I don't know what people are looking for in terms of information on intellectual property and how in a process. Because both in terms of, like I can give some practical advice, but also if you want to connect with one of the one of the labs doing this at Penn or Drexel, I know it's already been, people have been doing it, and I've worked with them on projects too, and they're great, but like, does anyone have a specific need in intellectual property that we can kind of like, well,
two things. First of all, in my field, NDA stands for New Drug Application. How are you using it?
Oh, non-disclosure agreement.
Got it.
Sorry.
And the second thing is, let me give you a specific. I'm creating an online course for Jefferson in neuroscience. That requires a lot of graphics, and I'm hoping to use online videos, maybe from TED Talks or YouTube or wherever.
Yeah.
How much freedom do I have to use things based on the internet like that?
To link to things?
Well, to link to the videos or else to import graphics from the video. For instance, Bing Images has a lot of good graphics for sciences and things like that.
Yeah.
Can I go on there, right-click, download it into presentation?
I don't know what the license is for Bing Images. You would have to look at like the licensing scenarios, and there are Creative Commons resources for like a lot of images. So you just need to look at like what the license is for it.
Okay.
But like I'd say also, linking is kind of like, so this, I'm not a lawyer, but I know that in court cases it's been validated that linking is not a violation. So if your content links to something, if you bring somebody else's content into your page, it's iffier. And you certainly, like in creating an academic program, you don't want to bring material in it for which you don't have rights.
And if it's going to live on YouTube, like in the description, you can make sure to cite your sources, where you're getting stuff from. If you're going to use images, maybe just purchase them off of like Shutterstock or stuff like that, so you just know, okay, you have the rights to use them. If not, just be very careful of which ones you have rights to.
Trying to get away from graphics with the watermark on it, but what Shutterstock does.
Yeah, but
well, that's because you're not supposed to use it.
Yeah, if you pay for them, you don't have the watermark on them.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's like some of them are like 99 cents or something. That should be fine.
But then also, again, there are lots of like free sources, and the reason those have watermarks is you're not supposed to use them. So, like especially for something you're doing for a corporate entity that's like deep pockets, like there are things if you're totally not bound to anybody, it can be like it's a lot easier because it's not worth suing an individual for like takedown.
So Lucy just passed around something on trademarks. If you have any questions on that, feel free to ask. Usually with trademarks is like if you're working on, some of you want to have like a fashion brand and you're wondering, okay, is the design mine or what if someone starts using it? So if the symbols you're using are unique to your brand, you can copyright them or trademark them. So let's say the swoosh sign for Nike, so that's definitely unique to Nike. You cannot use it for another sneaker or else you could get sued. But you can maybe use it as a check mark somewhere no one would really know. It just cannot be the exact same way it's being used currently. Or someone would call something else Coca-Cola. It just doesn't make any sense in that regard. So if you have any personal questions around like trademarking, feel free to ask, but that's the general concept of it.
It's also heavily contextual. Yeah. So like this can be hard. Well, I don't know. For creative people, it's probably not as hard as it is for legal people. But so I had a company with partners, and we were looking to how we needed to protect the name Big Bright Monster. So Big Bright Monster soft drink sues everybody. So if you try to register a new trademark and you have Monster in it, they'll just fight you as a matter of course. So like they're like, oh, it's not even worth trying because they have unlimited wealth, and they were just like, so don't put Monster in your name. So this is kind of like an advantage if you're looking at those things to know your environment. Like there's a first stage you can do as kind of like the area in which you're developing. Is there another entity that's big and powerful here, or can I just if you can define it and own it, then that's a lot easier as long as nobody is in that category. But again, like Monster sues for everything, so you can just never put Monster in a name. Which is like, so the question like, do you need to protect it can be, is it worth it all trying to protect your name if your name's Big Bright Monster? And it turns out like, oh Lord, no, it's not, because we would have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars set aside to protect it for it to be meaningful.
I know like John would mention one of his clients, Ivoryella, which is a clothing brand, but everything they do is about to save the elephants. And ivory is because ivory, that elephant talking about elephants, and then Ella was just the name of one of the guy's sisters. But Elle tried to sue the company just because there was L in the name. And so he had to go to court and kind of like say, like, it's not even related, you're a magazine and they're a clothing company. And this is like a lifestyle brand, not even fashion, not even like Elle, Vogue, fashion type magazine. So those are certain instances where, you know, maybe protecting your idea makes sense or not. But if you're working on something that clearly is unique to you, half the time you don't have to worry about it that much, but if you protect yourself and you think this is something someone could be using somewhere else wrongly, then yeah.
And we made it we made a game, Prana, for PlayStation VR. And like Prana is clearly pants, a yoga brand. It's like there are a bunch of things because it's a Sanskrit word. So, but none of the entities came close enough to what we were doing. And also, none of them were so wealthy that they could throw $500,000 at fighting us and not care. So we registered Prana, but we didn't, you know.
On that topic, would you think it'd be helpful or hurtful to approach a company that might be a similar, maybe sounding name, or maybe they have a similar sounding tagline? What could be beneficial to approach and be like, hey, we're a completely different industry, but we just want to let you be aware that we're going to be, or would it be better to file your logo, trademark, phrasing, and then see if they notice?
Well, it sort of like depends on, I mean, in a way, you'd only get benefit from doing that if they were close enough to you that they could provide a benefit as a strategic kind of resource too. Like, it's not like you do that just to get a clearance, because, I mean, there'd be no benefit to them to sign off. So, and if they are close enough, then you probably don't want to have a similar name. So.
Yeah, you don't want to be mistaken for them.
Right.
If it sounds similar, but being that name and them existing, people are going to confuse them for you, and vice versa. Like, you don't want your customers going to that, especially if you guys are around the same thing, and someone just automatically thinks, oh, type this in and goes straight to that. I'm trying to think of an example because I have seen that happen before, where people are typing in a name and it's not related to what it is.
WWF. They had the World Wrestling Federation, but they
World
were
Wildlife.
World Wildlife.
So something like that.
Too big, powerful entities, too small. Yeah.
So mainly then is the name that can give you the most trouble compared to saying like a symbol or a signature.
Oh, compared to like the symbols. Yeah, I mean, like the symbols kind of harder and like has less, you know, unless it's a, you know, swoosh or something. And also, like, you can change a symbol. It depends, like, what value do you get from it, too. So, in the case of kind of going back to games, right, like, in games, few people care about the studio or the publisher name. Everyone cares about the title. So, it really matters that you have a defensible name for that. You kind of don't care if you have to change the studio name, right? Because, like, then everyone can just know. Because, again, in some areas, like, again, in games, it's the team that matters. So the team can call themselves, like, Joe's team today and Adina's team tomorrow, and they're still the same people, and everyone knows it. That cares. It's like, kind of what is the value of any of these pieces? And not a monetary value, but, like, value to moving things forward.
Like for example, in the App Store, like, there's very similar games or apps that exist, but they all can't have the same name. Someone can't name their thing maybe Checkup, and then you also have something that kind of streamlines appointments to doctors, and you want to call it Checkup. You might call yours Check-In, I guess, but who does it benefit? Because when someone types in Checkup, you're like, okay, was it Check-In or was it Checkup? And then now you're like, oh.
Certainly people do that, and if you want to run, kind of create a sort of corrupt sort of business, you can create that, but then you need to be sure that you have the resources either to disappear or to fight well enough that, like, you can, like, you know, get killed.
People troll like intentionally because they want that. They want people to accidentally go to them and not you. So
Like an off-brand or
Yeah. In the early days, like in the mid-2000s, when there was starting to be, like, pre-iPhone world, there were starting to be some popular mobile games, but they were all brought together by aggregators, and And the aggregators that would bring things in would also be software developers. And kind of the way that that generally worked was terrible interface, so you'd only see like the 10 titles that they wanted you to see. So they'd kind of see, like they'd start marketing diversely, and then they'd see like a game that they thought was selling really well. So they just make their own game that was the same with a similar name and put it slotted in there and move the other one out. And because they had that power in the distribution chain, it worked really well. And I didn't do that, don't look. But like, so that's kind of like, so I think you can like be successful with a slightly corrupt idea. It just depends like who you're disadvantaging and making sure that like you're aware of any harm.
And I mean, to trademark something, I think it costs about $275 or something. That's without the lawyer fees. So you can like look into it and try and do it yourself. But also, you can try just putting that TM. TM is free. Putting TM next to whatever symbol you have is free. You can do that. It's only viable in whatever region you're in and whatever category you're in. But that is still enough that if someone tried to like say they are using the names of stuff, you can like refer to them and be like, well, we've been using this since this date with trademarking rights like TM next to our name since this date, and you can look and see like this is the first time we used it maybe on social media, and that still holds. So
yeah, that's like conventionalism.
Yeah.
I've never run into somebody who had a problem with that. I've never run into someone who said, there was something that came after us and we had to change our name. Like if you've just been around.
yeah, if you've just been around and people know like this is you, this is your brand, been on let's say Instagram since like 2015, and then some new brand pops up in 2016 and they're like, well no, that's ours, and we registered it. It's like, well, we have been around and we have trademarking rights based on X, Y, and Z law. And we were here in 2015, so yeah. You have to have that proof. Can't just say, oh, that's my brand and you're in your room, like no one's seen it, no one knows that is your brand.
Yeah. And I mean like with that and with everything, it's like kind of like when you're starting something up, it's all about having enough resources to advance it. And like almost like so few startup businesses succeed. And if you get too focused on IP and like a lot of stuff, unless you have something that is like technologically unique and like validated in that way, that it has to happen. It just distracts from your core thing of getting your thing done and out there in the world and getting sales. So, like it's something that you should do if you have to, but it shouldn't be the thing that like you need to do. And also, like some people look at like investors and say like, oh, investors like patents. And it used to be kind of a buzzwordy thing that investors liked patents. In like again, this is not for deep scientific stuff. This is for like business and kind of like consumer-facing stuff. It used to be they'd sort of lean toward that, but they're much more interested in if you've got something out in the world. And if you're like working on a project for a year and you're just like putting every moment into making it succeed, that's much more likely to get it to the point where an investor is going to be interested in you than you've got a patent for something that may or may not be enforceable. It's just kind of, it's like.
Patents are expensive, very expensive. Like, okay, a provisional is $200 or around that, but that only gives you a year to make sure you file the actual real patent that you claim you have rights to.
And have meaningful use, right?
Yeah, and have meaningful use, and those run anywhere from $8,000 to like $50,000. So like you have to really know like, okay, I really know this is worth pursuing, this is worth patenting. So yeah, I'm gonna put this $200 down. By next year, I'm ready to go on this much of it. So spend more time developing what you're working on and know that this is something worth patenting before you jump right into it.
Yeah, and the question is always like, why do you want to patent it, right? So you have to have a good reason why, not just it's good to have patents. And I've done that, like it's just good to have patents. I did that with someone mostly so they could have a better chance at a typo visa, because typo visas want like validation through kind of patents. But I mean, like I've done it more often as an exercise, and even though I've done it a few times, I've never done it really because I thought I should, and I've never done it in a situation where like I put aside any other tasks or anything. This is where we had flexibility and we're like, oh, okay, well we can work on this patent for this person, or someone insisted we've got a patent this. But like in all the years that I've been starting businesses and working with people, I've never had a patent that I thought was worth doing.
So, is anyone working on something that they think they're concerned about the intellectual property around it. Anyone here? So we can talk after if you want to do one-on-one, and kind of figure out what you should be focusing your efforts on. Anybody with general intellectual property questions here? Yeah, so unfortunately, John couldn't make it, but we felt we still needed to share what we knew. It's better to get direct knowledge from legal help. So, but we're going to postpone. So whenever John's coming back, I will send out another email. If everyone signed in, you guys will get personal emails from me letting you know when he's here. We're probably going to also schedule some one-on-one time with him in 30-minute blocks. So whoever wants that kind of help will get it. And yeah, thank you all for coming.